Good morning, everyone. This is Live with Main Street, and I am Anna. We've got Jim Ludwig and Eric Jorgensen. I hope you guys are doing well. We are excited for this month's theme, and it is planning for holidays. We are financial planners, and so we like to get things done ahead of time. So what do you guys think about a theme?
I think it's great. And how many holidays are you thinking about, Anna?
So let's see, this month we have Halloween coming up, so it's maybe 10 or 11 days away. So that's one that I can think of. I don't celebrate it, but it's always fun to give candy away. We've got Thanksgiving in November, and then we've got December with Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year. So there's lots of holidays coming up. So what we want to talk about today is, because a lot of times you read in the news or you hear people talk about financial stress and overspending, overindulging during the holidays. And I think that's okay to do, but if you can prepare ahead of time and be ready, that could be a whole different experience. So our goal today is to discuss with you some of our tips and ideas of what we think will help you have a better holiday season. So how about we get into it? And we are going to address more of things from financial standpoint because we are financial planners. So let's get right into it. One of the things that a lot of people do is we become generous around holidays, right? So start giving gifts in different forms, right? It could be a gift of money. It could be a gift of buying something for someone. But what about gifts that have, they don't have monetary values? There's a gift that you can give that you don't have to spend money on. So, Jim, do you care to give us an example what that could be in case you don't have money to spend during the holiday season, but you still want to be generous, you still want to make someone happy?
Well, Anna, I'm glad you asked that question because I recently wrote a blog on that topic and I hope to publish it soon. And the theme was giving non-monetary holiday gifts. And I'll give you 4 of the tips of a number of them that I have in my blog. The first one, and I really like this one, and I want to do this one myself, is enlist family and friends in assembling a video and a photo montage of your recipient centered around either a specific event. It could be a wedding, or it could be their graduation, or it could be some other time in their life where you think a montage would go together. And there are tools online now to do that, and many of them are free. And so I think that would be a perfect gift, and the recipient would know that you spend a lot of time getting other people's input and being the editor. And I think that would make a fun gift, and it costs very little or no money out of your pocket. The second one is take your honored guest to a free event and enlist someone to be the chauffeur so you can treat them like a VIP. A lot of times they have museum openings, or they have festivals in a park, or just they have free movies at the park. They have a lot of different things in your town or city, and treat them royally. And again, if it's a free event and there's no money out of your pocket. The third one is try regifting a book. Now, regifting may be a sore subject with people, but if you read a really good book and you took the time to write a well thought out letter as to how this book affected you, and you think your recipient would get the same kind of feeling out of reading this book in a well thought, well written letter, I think that would be a great gift that doesn't cost any more money. And lastly, offer to do a chore for a specific amount of time, a chore that you know the recipient doesn't like to do. Maybe you would do the dishes for 3 months. That's just a thought. Anyway, those are some of the things that are in my blog, and I hope our audience will look for it in the coming weeks.
Yeah, awesome suggestions, Jim, and we're looking forward to reading your blog very shortly. Now, but there are a lot of people who may want to actually give, as what I call them, financial gifts. So if you have the resources and you want to give those kinds of gifts, let's talk about those type of gifts for a minute. So Eric, do you care to comment or give us tips and suggestions? For example, if you're thinking about this and it's December Are there any tax limitations we have to think about if you're given a substantial gift, tax considerations? Just give us an idea if we are writing a substantial check, for example, as a gift this holiday season. What do we have to think about?
Sure. So one of the things you want to think about is what are the IRS income tax or gift tax limitations? We have clients who are interested in a living, and making sure that while they're alive they give the inheritance, and so they can see their families really enjoy the money that they're giving. So we want to make sure that what they're conscious of right now, the most you can give in any given year to any given individual is $14,000, and then without filing a gift tax return. Filing a gift tax return isn't bad, it's just something to be aware of. So as long as you keep the limits below $14,000, you don't have to do any additional paperwork come tax time. Then there's people that want to perhaps give those substantial gifts right up to the end of the year. So you have till 31 December to give the gift to a family member. And this could be a great way to, again, if you have a large estate and you want to pass it down to people and really see where they're benefiting, they can pass that money along. If you want to give the money and you don't really want to think about the IRS, and you have grandchildren in college, a way you can go about it is paying tuition directly to the college, and then you don't even have to think about because it doesn't impact in any way, shape, or form your $14,000 limit. So if the tuition is $20,000 and you pay for that tuition, but you have to give it directly to the college. You can't give it to the student. So if you pay the college, you pay their tuition, you can still give the student $14,000, and be without worrying about gift tax.
Awesome. But you can always go to the mall and buy something there. So that's that's the last resort, right? And I love giving gifts, as I mentioned before, but what I love more is giving gifts that have some meaning behind them, even though it may be a small trinket, but I think a lot of you can relate to that. If it gives you that satisfaction, I really think that person will like it. That's going to be a lot more meaningful gift. So the topic of financial stress that comes around holiday, because there's just a lot of activity going on and celebrations and getting together. Now, if we didn't talk about putting some kind of a spending plan or budget together, we wouldn't be good financial planners, right? I think you guys could agree. So do we have some tips on what people should think about? How about maybe even earning a few extra bucks so that the gifting during the holidays or the extra spending doesn't quite affect your overall normal budgeting and spending? So I'm working on the blog actually also on the subject, and my focus is, well, how can we earn a few extra bucks so that we can support the holiday spending and gifting? And so two ideas. I'm not going to give all of them away because I want you to read my blog. So one is, think about what kind of stuff do you have around the house that you can actually get rid of and get a few dollars for it. We all have extra things we don't need and don't use, and we can sell. One of the things I have a lot of, and now not only in my house but also in the office, is books. Okay, so I always thought that I would look smarter if I have a whole bunch of books. Actually, my husband convinced me of that, but he's not listening. So can I get rid of those books? It's definitely going to take time, but that's one area where I think I can lighten up my load with and maybe earn a few extra dollars. Now, some of you have, and this is a neat idea I've heard, I've read about, there are different startups and apps for this, but if you have a car and you don't drive it as much and it just sits in your parking lot or in a driveway, there are companies out there that would actually allow you to rent it to other people. So it's called car sharing. So think about that. Maybe a few $100 a month, but maybe that's all you need in the next 3 months to make this holiday season a winning proposition. So those are my ideas for how can we make extra income. Look for my blog, but maybe Eric or Jim can add to this. What do we have some spending tips, or how do we create a spending plan for the holiday season.
I would encourage people to think about what their guilty pleasures are. What are the types of things that they wouldn't normally do, but hey, it only comes around one time a year. What's the harm in spending on it? If you have those guilty pleasures, set aside a couple extra dollars now to have that money in the bank, so you don't have the credit card hangover come January. Where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm never doing this again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, Anna, I have a relative who drives part-time for Uber. And,
all right.
So I thought that was a good idea to make some extra money. And the Lyft Uber model means that you make money when you want to make money, and you're in control. And so that's a neat opportunity. And there's no long-term contract or anything that you have to keep. Maybe you just do it for a couple of months and then let it go idle.
Yeah, it's going to be even more needed as people want to get out and go to various events and so forth. Well, one of the other suggestions is if you have a spare room in your house, maybe you can rent that out. And if you live in towns where lots of activities happening during holidays, that may be another area where you can earn a few extra bucks.
And I'm going to be a wet towel, though, because you have to worry about the liability with these. You want to make sure you're talking to your insurance company, so if something happens, it doesn't do a lot of good to make a couple $100 and then have an accident or something that's not covered because you didn't have the right liability. So I'm going to be a bit of a wet towel and say, make sure you're doing your homework before you do this and get the proper liability coverages. Great.
We like that suggestion. Yes. One of the other areas I want to cover today is donations instead of gifts. One example may be volunteering. So we talked about non-monetary gifts, but what else could we do? I know you can always write a check to a charity, right, or a nonprofit organization. But do we have any other suggestions in this area? Because I think that's also where a lot of people would want to contribute and help during holidays.
Well, Anna, as an older individual, I have some thoughts because many of my friends and relatives are around the same age I have. And many of them have been fortunate, and they don't really need any more toys or gifts. In fact, they want to have garage sales and get rid of a lot of things they've accumulated over the years. So I have a friend in a wheelchair, and one of the things I do to thank that friend is to donate to an organization that manufactures and distributes wheelchairs in poor countries to give people a sense of mobility. Another thing is I have a lot of military buddies because I have a military background, and I'll make a donation to the USO in their honor. I have a couple of friends who graduated from college, and by sending a donation to their favorite college, because I know they're donors to their college too, that's a way to honor your friends without giving them money directly or giving them some token that they maybe won't appreciate. It just goes on the shelf and then a few years later goes to the garage sale. Another way is to think of the past service, like my military buddies. Also, I have a friend who's a former Peace Corps volunteer. And so making a donation to an organization like Doctors Without Borders, an organization that they work with while they were in the Peace Corps, would be a great way to honor that person. And whatever that person's favorite charity is, because you've known this person, you really want to give them a gift, you've known that over time, why not make that donation? And usually what I do is I have the charity send a card or a letter to the recipient, letting know that we've honored them with that donation.
Wow, these are great suggestions. Eric, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of nonprofits. I'm on a couple boards. So for one thing, they're always looking for volunteers. So again, much like Jim said, if you know people that charities are near and dear to their heart, nonprofits are, their mission is what this individual feels for, volunteering your time. So not everybody has the extra money to give during the holidays, but what can you serve on a committee, or can you volunteer to help that nonprofit during a day, community day or something of that nature. And then, when you're reviewing your estate plan or you're reviewing your overall financial plan at the end of the year, If you have life insurance policies that are paid up and you don't feel you need a death benefit anymore, perhaps you might want to look at changing the beneficiary to be the nonprofit, because they would get more from the death benefit. It's not an immediate result, but they would get more from the death benefit than if you surrender it for whatever cash value there was and you donated the cash value. You know, the charity would get a much bigger benefit from if you happen to leave it as a bequest. And then the last piece is I work with a lot of families with special needs who do a special needs trust. So when you have a special needs trust, you have a beneficiary. You also have a remainderment. And remainderment is whoever gets the money, whatever's in that trust when the beneficiary passes away. Many of these individuals are serviced by nonprofits. So when that individual passes away, making the remainderment of the trust, the nonprofit, is another great way to say thank you to the nonprofit and just pay it forward.
Awesome. Well, Jim and I in the past have done, do you remember, Jim, a few years back, we rang the bell for Salvation Army for a few hours in Annapolis, so that was one way. I am actually, this weekend, there's something called Financial Planning Day here in the Bay Area, so all CFP professionals who are certified financial planners go out and spend half a day just giving financial advice to those who can't afford or think they can't afford to pay for our services. So that's a really satisfying kind of place, because you get to do what you love, and then you get to help people that otherwise won't come through our doors. So that's one way I'm contributing this holiday season. Well, and just to kind of close, because we're almost at our allowed time. Holiday stress and how to overcome it. Definitely preparation, right? It's like anything in life. The more you prepare, the better you are going to be. So think about just maybe take the weekend off. We still have a lot of time until these holidays kick in. Think about what you're planning to do. Talk to your family, to your loved ones, to your kids, to your spouses. What are you guys planning to do? Where extra money will be spent? And then think about how can you make a few bucks driving for Uber? Or are you going to donate, volunteer your time? Or are you going to give monetary gifts so that it doesn't cost you a lot? But I think you can come out with a different experience in January. You won't be as stressed out, and your New Year's resolutions could be also different. Not the typical ones. I've got a ton of debt and I want to figure out how to pay that off. So let's change this thing around. We are here next month again. And if you guys have any questions, send us a note, and you guys enjoy the weekend. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jim.
Bye, Anna. Bye, Eric. Bye, folks.